All right, people, you heard that. This meeting is being recorded. Welcome, welcome everybody. I'm allowing people to come in from the waiting room. Thanks for your patience. And looks like most of the people are in now. All of you are on mute. At some point, we'll ask you to unmute yourself. Before we get to that, I want to, again, welcome everybody. Thank you. You're at Prosper Maufoux's Burgundy pre-sale virtual tasting. I am your host and moderator, Lee Schlesinger. I am the Vice President of Portfolio Management and Education at Wine Cellars. I am joined with our friends from France, Aurelien Piffaut, co-owner of Prosper Maufoux, and lead winemaker Nadine Gublin. Guys, give everybody a wave. So before I introduce them more fully, I wanted to just go over a little bit of housekeeping stuff. Again, everybody's on mute. At some point, we'll ask you for questions. If you don't want to unmute yourself, go ahead and drop your questions or comments into the chat section. I will regularly monitor that. And then during the presentation, we will be showing our friends with the Chateau Saint-Aubin virtual background behind them, and we will pin them because instead of that, we'll actually show the presentation behind them. So I'm going to have their video pinned. But again, any questions, feel free to drop it into the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself when we take a pause. I want to make sure hopefully everybody has their kits, their pre-sale information, as well as the market specific pricing. If you don't, you can directly chat with me and I can get that to you. Again, I've probably been emailing with all you guys, so you have my email address, but I'll go ahead and put that in the chat in case anybody didn't get that. Our meeting today is scheduled to go around 1 hour and 15 minutes, depending on how conversational you guys are. Our group yesterday was pretty quiet, so we finished right around 1 hour and 15 minutes, so we'll allot that amount of time. And then our quick agenda. Let's just share that real quick. We'll do this more traditional screen share for you. So again, Prosper Maufoux. And we are going to do a little bit of introduction here, which we're doing. And then Aurelien, I will introduce shortly. He'll go over some of the Prosper Maufoux history, his family going back generations. The Famille Piffaut, his overarching kind of Burgundy house, which includes Prosper Maufoux and the other 2 houses we'll talk about here today. And then we'll have Aurelien introduce Nadine, who will go over 2019 vintage, which is the focus of this tasting. There are some other wines outside of that vintage that are on the pre-sale, depending on what market you're in, but we'll focus on 2019 today, and then we'll taste the 8 wines from that 2019 vintage that we have these cute little sample bottles of. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Aurelien Piffaut, and Nadine. Aurelien, I'll let you take it over.
Thank you, Lee. So hi, everybody. I will start to introduce a bit about my family and the history of my family in the wine business. So today we are a group of 5 wine houses mainly in Burgundy and 1 in Provence. We have been in the wine industry, wine producer since 1820. So we are originally a sparkling wine producer from Burgundy. We own the Veuve Ambal house, which is the #1 producer of Cremant Bourgogne. We also own the house of André Delorme, which is a small terroir and craft producer of Cremant Bourgogne. And we own the Rivarose, which is a sparkling wine producer located in Provence. And also the house that will present today the wine. I run the company with my father, and I'm the 6th generation from Piffaut family. So I will speak about Prosper Maufoux house. It's a house founded in Burgundy in 1860. So it was founded by the Maufoux family. It used to be a really well-known house, a wine Burgundy producer in the US in the 70s and the 90s. It was located in Saint-Aubin. So Saint-Aubin is a small village in the south of Côtes de Beaune. We have the pleasure to taste a wine from this village later on the tasting. And this house used to be owned after the Maufoux family by an American guy, Robert Fairchild. And when he died, we bought the house in 2010, which was still based in Saint-Aubin. And one of the important dates in the history of Maufoux and of the family Piffaut family also was 2020. So last year that we moved the Maufoux house to Chateau Saint-Aubin in a new all renew chateau. Plus we created a all new modern winery right in the center of the village. So at the origin, Prosper Maufoux house is a negociant elder. So has contract with growers all around Burgundy, mostly in Côtes de Beaune, and well known for white from Côtes de Beaune, so around the Montrachet, all the great village that we'll have the pleasure to taste also. But today, as many negociants and also estates, we are not only a negociant, but also a wine producer and a vineyard owner, and especially in the white area of Puligny, Chassagne, Meursault, and Saint-Aubin, of course. So here you have a nice draft from the Chateau all renew. We are just finishing the renovation, and June is the opening month for public, because we'll have a great space to welcome a customer in the chateau, plus in a nice boutique. And we just started after 2 years, almost 3 years of renovation, with some delay, of course. Maybe more delay than expected because the COVID did not help as well, but we are happy to start the new, let's say, the new story and the new era for Prosper Maufoux in the village of Saint-Aubin. So we own 3 estates in Côtes de Beaune and Mâconnais area and Hautes Côtes de Nuits. And today you will taste the wine mostly coming from the Côtes de Beaune around Saint-Aubin, with the greatest, let's say, appellation in the white Burgundy, maybe in the part of the best Chardonnay of the world, let's say. So you will taste Saint-Aubin Premier Cru, Puligny Premier Cru, Meursault Premier Cru. So all these parcels are really close from the winery based in Saint-Aubin. We also own an estate in Hautes Côtes de Nuits, Domaine La Vigne, where we own 36 hectares of vineyards, 60% of Pinot and 40% of Chardonnay. Today, the area of Hautes became one of the best, let's say, value wine, and also because of the high altitude of the vineyard. With the climate change, we are now producing great Pinot and Chardonnay from this area. So I will leave the space to Nadine, that is today is a winemaker consultant. We work with Nadine since 2010, so since we bought the Prosper Maufoux winery, and Nadine will tell you more, but she has, of course, great experience, especially with white Chardonnay. Thank you.
Thank you, Aurelien. Hello to everybody. I am Nadine Gublin. I am enologist since a very long time now, since 1979. I learned enology at Dijon, at the university in Burgundy. And I am enologist, consulting enologist for the Famille Piffaut since 2010, but if I remember, I think I have begun in 2009, really, the first year.
I arrived in 2010 in the company. So
we worked together. I am also another activity in the winemaking, because I am the winemaker for the Famille La Bruyère, who owns Domaine Jacques Prieur in Meursault. We speak now of the vintage, perhaps? Yes. Few words of vintage 2019 before to begin the tasting. We have, for this vintage 2019, we have to know 5 very important things to understand this vintage, and to understand why we produce low quantity of wine, both red and wine. The winter between 2018 and 2019 has been mild weather, mild temperature, and the vegetation begins very, very early at the beginning of spring 2019. And the bud burst begins very early at 1st of April. And after, April has been cold, and we have had frost, and we have lost a part of bud. Part of bud, it means a part of grapes for the future. May also has been not very mild, between fresh and mild, and the flowering really begins at the middle of June 2019. And the flowering takes a very long time, 2 weeks, 15 days, 2 weeks, 15 days. And after 15th of June, the weather became very hot and very dry. And the summer has been hot and dry to the end of August. All this thing brings a quantity of grapes, a small quantity of grapes, and a small quantity of juice. September also has been nice, and we start the harvest not before 10-12 of September. Classic date classic for Burgundy time. Have you some question on the vintage?
You guys, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask away, or go ahead and type it into the chat if you're feeling a little shy. All right.
Few precision on the quality of the grapes in general. 2019, we pick a very nice grape, ripe, with sugar, aromatic and phenolic ripeness was perfect. Very, very nice level of acidity, natural acidity. And also the grapes were very healthy, both for the red and for the white, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Yeah, so you know, the takeaway that for me and from what I heard yesterday again was very low yields because of frost in the beginning, and then a very hot, dry summer, which also lowered the yields.
Yes.
But the quality overall very good, and despite all that heat, you had nice cool nighttime temperatures, which helped maintain the acidity, so we didn't get over ripeness and we got proper balance in the wines.
No over ripeness, no over ripeness. Very well balanced grapes, very well balanced between sugar and acidity. We start with no.
Yeah, we'll start. There was one question here that said, hey, was this with the factors that we're talking about here, the frost and then the hot conditions, that was throughout Burgundy, or was it isolated to certain sections, or was it pretty widespread?
Est-ce que c'était partout en Bourgogne ou c'était certaines locales?
Oui, oui, c'était. It was a generality for the Burgundy, for all the Burgundy. Yes, in 2019. Yes, for all Burgundy.
Well, let's taste a little wine.
Let's start.
We start. The first wine, we start the tasting with red wines. And the first wine will be Bourgogne Haute Côte de Nuits, Domaine Vignerois, Pinot Noir grapes. The domain, the estate is located at Béville in Haute Côte de Nuits. Haute Côte de Nuits, it means above Côte de Nuits. The soil is very classic soil between clay and limestone. The area is 56 acres of Pinot Noir, and the vines are at 300 to 400 meters in the slope, at the top of the slope, very high in the slope. It's very important for the climate, for the climate condition. For the winemaking aging, this wine is aging. A part is aging in a stainless steel tank, and a part is aging in oak barrels, with 20% of new oak barrels, French oak barrel. At the nose and on the palate, very fruity, very delicious red fruit like cherry. We eat the cherry, pure cherry, ripe cherry, but fresh. The wine is at the same time generous, round, and crispy. Very easy to drink now. We like this freshness, this fruit immediately. And at the end of the mouth, the tannins are very fine, very delicate, with a very, very light spicy taste at the end. of the mouth.
There is a question here, Nadine, and the question is from Mr. Kleiman here in Chicago, and he wants to know if you 100% destem all the grapes before fermentation.
Destem, completely destem. Yes, completely destem for this wine. We do the harvest for this wine at 20 of September 19, and we bottle this wine at 14 January 2021. Completely destem, yes. We do, for the winemaking, we do also cold maceration, destem and cold maceration before the beginning of alcoholic fermentation. We can taste the second. It's okay for you?
More questions here on this guy. Our friend in Indiana is asking about a mix of stainless steel, and for fermentation, it's a mix of stainless steel and barrel, or is it all stainless steel and then go into partial barrel?
The mix between stainless steel tanks and barrel, it's for aging, only for aging.
And then the cold maceration, how many days of cold maceration?
The fermentation, cold maceration, fermentation is during 15 to 20 days. It takes place in a stainless steel open vat. And after, for the aging, a part in stainless steel vat and a part in oak barrels.
Clear. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Crystal clear.
My pleasure.
All right. If there are no other, any other questions out there? Otherwise, we'll move on to the Haute Côte de Beaune.
We move to Bourgogne, Haute Côte de Beaune, Château de Saint-Aubin. Also Pinot Noir grape. The soil, very classic soil between clay and limestone. The area 3.85 acres. The altitude 380 meters. Also for the aging, a part in stainless steel tanks and a part in oak barrels. These barrels, we have two sizes of barrels. Small classic Burgundy barrels of 28 liter, and barrels, big barrels of 500 liter. The proportion of new oak is 20% of new oak. Very beautiful color for the, very, very beautiful color, red, purple color. The nose is very, very, very pure on very black fruit. The nose and a little part of floral flavor, like little violet. Full body in the mouth, deep. Also in the mouth, we have the ripeness of the black fruit. We eat black fruit. The tannins are also ripe, but at the same time spicy, fresh, and we keep the wine very long time in the mouth. Very, very long finish. The wine is very digest. We have a very fine sapidity at the end of the palate. We pick the grape 20 of September 19. And this wine is not yet in bottle. It will be bottled this month in June 2021. You have also some, you have spicy flavors. Very well structured for this wine. We have we eat a black cherry in the mouth. We have a black cherry in the mouth.
And I think that there's a little bit more oak influence here because I think the wine has a little bit more concentration and darker fruit flavors. So, you know, you're able to maybe move up, or maybe I just feel the oak because it's youthful, but I get that licoricey, anisey note on the finish, as well as the spice from the oak.
We have spice, licorice flavors at the end of on the palate. But we keep, the wine stays very long time. Other questions? No?
I think we can move on.
We move to Centenay, Premier Cru Gravières. The village of Centenay is located at the south of the Côtes de Beaune. It's very close of the village of Chassagne-Montrachet. The climate, the lieu-dit of Gravières is one of the best lieu-dits of Centenay. It's very close of the Chassagne-Montrachet place. It's very high in the slope, this terroir of Gravières. The soil is, yes, at the same time, clay and limestone, but in this place, we have more limestone with limestone, gravel, and stony soil. In this terroir, you have Chardonnay, you can have Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. It means we can produce Centenay Premier Cru Gravières white or Centenay Premier Cru Gravières red. And we have also Centenay Premier Cru Gravières white.
Yes.
We produce both. Donc for the winemaking, we speak of cold maceration. We do also cold maceration. It's completely distemmed, completely distemmed, cold pre-maceration. 20 days for the cuvaison. During the cuvaison, we don't do pump over. For the Pinot Noir, we prefer to do push down, but we do push down only during the high alcoholic fermentation. When the cap is very tight, we do push down twice a day. A push down on the morning and a push down on the evening, and it's during 5-6 days maximum. For the aging, 100% in oak, in French oak barrels, Burgundy barrels, and with 30% of new oak. We pick the grapes on 20 of September 19, and the wine has been bottled in March 21.
So we don't own the land and the parcel, but Prosper Maufoux House has a really long relationship with the wine growers for the Centenay Premier Cru Les Gravières, and a long history with this wine.
This this wine is very pure, very elegant, perfect balance between the ripeness, between the freshness. It's at the same time generous, silky, very delicate, very, very bright, red and dark fruit. It's very big complexity in this wine, but also very, very elegant, very elegant.
Surprising how complex and balanced it is, even in its youthful stage here now. I get all these floral notes we didn't even discuss.
We have at the same time fruity, spicy, toasty flavors, but all these flavors are very, very integrate, very well balanced together. Beautiful tannins, also very fine tannins, very elegant, and also very, very long finish. The wine stays very long time at the end on the palate.
Beautiful.
Beautiful sapidity, very digest, very beautiful sapidity. Have you some questions?
Just some compliments in the, I see some heads nodding when we're talking about the complexity and elegance of this wine. So, no direct questions. I think we can move. Drew, did you have a comment?
I have a quick question. We're really enjoying this wine. What do you see as far as the ageability and progression of this wine?
The potential.
En bouteille, the potential. For me, this wine, and in the vintage 2019, 10, 15 years, 10, 15 years in bottle without problem. 10, 15 years. Yes. Beautiful potential.
It's linked to the vintage as well. This specific.
Yes, for the vintage first, and after the wine and the quality of the terroir. Mm. Yes. Big potential, 10, 15 years.
Lovely. Even a little forest floor for me. Starting to show, you know, so much complexity for Pinot Noir. This is why we're here today, I think. At least on the red side of things, which I think we're about to flip into the white side of things here now.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Domaine Vigneroy and
yes.
the Côtes Nuits Blanc.
Côtes de Nuits.
In white.
With Chardonnay grapes. Donc Bourgogne Haute Côte de Nuits, white Domaine Vigneroy. Donc in Bévy village. In Haute Côte de Nuits, above Côte de Nuits. The terroir also clay limestone, very classic in Burgundy. 32 acres of Chardonnay. The altitude between 300 to 400 meters, sorry. And for the winemaking and aging, a mix between stainless steel tanks and oak barrels. The percentage of new oak is 20% of new oak. During the alcoholic fermentation and the malolactic fermentation take place for the part in stainless steel, and for the part of oak barrels takes place in oak barrels. And we keep the wine during all the aging on lees and sediment without tracking.
So partial barrel fermentation.
Barrel fermentation, yes, barrel fermentation. We pick the grape on 17 of September. We pick the grapes. And the wine has been bottled in April 2021. very well, the fruit is bright. You have, at the same time, you have yellow fruit, like Mirabelle, comment on dit plus, jaune ou yellow? Plum? Yellow plum, very delicious nose, and on the very delicious yellow fruit on the palate. You have also light citrus flavors. It gives a crispy touch on the palate. We have also, after aeration on the nose, some vanilla flavors. Little anise also for me in the mouth. Very delicious to drink now. Very delicious to drink now. Ripeness and freshness. Very easy to drink young. Have you some question?
Just some compliments here. It's I'm showing even better than yesterday. I really it's that elegant balance, good acidity, and bright fruit, and all the things that we like in wine, which is elegance, balance, length, complexity. Showing beautifully.
It also, we keep it very long in the mouth and the palate. We keep it very long.
And a relative bargain too. Everybody should have their price list and can follow along. Beautiful texture and weight from chiming in from California. Thank you, Diana, for the nice compliments. I think we can go to the Haute Côte de Beaune from Chateau Saint-Aubin.
We move to Bourgogne, Haute Côte de Beaune, white Château de Saint-Aubin. Then this wine comes from a lieu-dit who names Châtaignier at 380 meters, and exposure is northwest. It's also now with the climate evolution, it's a very nice place for the climate condition. Soil between clay and limestone. The surface area is 3.49 acres. And for the winemaking, alcoholic and malolactic fermentation are carried on only in French oak barrels, 20% of new oak barrels. We pick the grape on 18 of September 19, and the wine is not yet in bottle. It's still in vat, and this wine will be bottled in June this month, 2021.
And the Haute Côte de Beaune area, for those who know a bit Burgundy, it's in between Côte Chalonnaise and Côte de Beaune. So it's south of the Côte de Beaune, north of Côte Chalonnaise, in the Couchois area around the Centenay, Marange, Saint-Aubin. And those two areas, Haute Côte de Beaune and Haute Côte de Nuits, are really today two areas where not really well known, but where the value of the wine is what became and is now one of the greatest place to grow and to make Burgundy style wine, Pinot and Chardonnay.
On the nose, we have a balance between yellow fruit, ripeness of the vintage, and citrus flavors. Also, we have, when we do aeration, we have at the same time toasty and flinty nose flavors on the nose. On the palate, a balance between, is very well balanced between ripeness, freshness, and very beautiful sapidity, crispy, also very nice, refreshing acidity at the end of the mouth. And also we keep the wine a long time at the end on the palate.
We're getting comments even on the textural components, the creaminess of the wine. And was this wasn't stirred with lees, but it was kept on lees without bâtonnage?
We keep the wine on lees, on sediment, but we don't track. Even after malolactic fermentation, we don't track. We keep the wine on sediment, but we don't do bâtonnage. We don't do bâtonnage because we want to keep the freshness, especially when the vintage is ripe, is hot, like 2019. We want to keep the balance between the ripeness and the freshness. We keep the wine on sediment, but we don't do bâtonnage. Because if you do bâtonnage, with a vintage like this, you bring more lourdeur, heaviness. We have to be very careful with this.
Understood.
We keep on lees because it's important to keep on sediment, on lees, to have reduced flavors, to protect the wine against oxygen. But it's also important when the vintage is ripe, not to do bâtonnage, it's very important not to bring heaviness, texture, structure. Very important. Not to do.
We have another question, and it's for either one of you, maybe Aurelien, this might be for you. Can you explain the relationship? You know, these wines are labeled Chateau Saint-Aubin, but Prosper Maufoux also appears on the label. Can you just explain the relationship between the houses and the parent brand?
Sure, yeah. So Prosper Maufoux is the house that vinified and make the wine of the estate that covered the estate Chateau Saint-Aubin. So we bought the chateau in 2015, where there was a nice estate with all the different parcels, Côtes de Beaune, Saint-Aubin Premier Cru, Meursault Premier Cru. And today that's the team, and like Nadine plus Mathieu, which is the winemaker in house, the Prosper Maufoux team that is making the wine and in the style of the house. And like the Domaine Vignerois, it's an estate that we own, and that goes under the profile and the brand style of Prosper Maufoux. So okay. Prosper Maufoux owns is at the origin a négociant, but today Prosper Maufoux owns different estates around Burgundy and make those wine, vinify those vineyards, as well as original cuvée from the négoce part, like the Centenaire Premier Cru.
Terrific, thank you. Shall we move into another Chateau Saint-Aubin estate property?
We move to Saint-Aubin, sorry, first Cru Clos du Château, Château de Saint-Aubin. Donc this wine, it's a monopole?
It's a monopole, it's a clos, it's 4 walls, no, 3 walls. To be a clos, you need to have 3 walls. They need to be a bit renovated, those walls, but we start with the chateau. Next step is the wall. And it's right in the center of the village, in front of the chateau. So you have a clos and you have two climates. You have a premier cru, which is on the above, and you have the second part, which is Saint-Aubin village. So you see a bit the draw. So this is the premier cru, and you have like a track in the middle of the parcel, and it's the limit between the premier cru, which is next to the chateau, and the village, which is down. And but the village part was replanted, 100% replanted in 2015. So first vintage was 18, but it's 100% new, young vineyards. So we are not today bottling this and under the Prosper Maufoux range because we think the wine is not yet showing what we expect. But in some years, we hopefully add this wine to the Prosper Maufoux range. So let's taste.
Oh.
We taste. We speak of the soil and the terroir. It's a very special place where the soil is rich in alluvion. It's a balance between clay and sand, but the soil have a very good draining. The altitude is 280 meters, and the surface area is 2.74 acres. For the winemaking, alcoholic fermentation and malolactic fermentation take place in French oak barrels, a part in Burgundy barrels, classic Burgundy barrels, and a part in big barrels of 500 liter, with 30% of new oak. We pick the grape on at 19th of September, and this wine, Clos du Château, Château de Saint-Aubin, is not yet in bottle. The wine is still in vat. It will be bottled in June, this month, 2021.
It's also late parcels. It's yes. Maybe the last parcels that we harvest in general, which is good in the year that we just experiencing, like when you have frost and early growth of the vegetation. This specific parcel was avoid the frost damage for 2021 vintage, which is pretty rare on the Chardonnay side, because let's say the other parcels from the domain, the Meursault Premier Cru, for instance, was really damaged this year.
For the tasting, we have a beautiful color, gold color. In the nose, this wine is very precise, very pure, with very light, spicy flavors, a balance between white and yellow fruit, and also some citrus flavors It gives beautiful freshness. This wine has big energy, very, very bright and big energy. It's really the specificity of this terroir and of the terroir of Saint-Aubin, premier cru, first cru. The energy, the very well balanced. In general, the white wine of Saint-Aubin are very well balanced between the ripeness, and also they keep a beautiful energy because they keep a very nice natural acidity. It's really the specificity of this terroir and the specificity of the appellation Saint-Aubin. We have in the mouth, the wine is very well balanced between almond notes, yes, pear, white, fruit, crispiness, citrus, and very long, sapidity, saltiness. We keep the wine very, very long time in the mouth, and a beautiful freshness, very digest. Big potential for me, big potential, this white wine in Bourgogne.
Yeah, we had some comments that the aromas were so good we didn't want to have to finish our small sample sizes. We were enjoying the aromatic complexity already, and that we all thought that maybe this wine had some potential, but the aromatics were, you know, I think somebody said decadent, but you know, medium plus kind of intensity coming out of the Chardonnay with, I was getting like lemon verbena with spice and tropical notes, really fun.
Yes, yes. Other question?
No questions. We're getting some compliments again.
We move.
Yep, we can keep moving.
Okay.
We move to Meursault. Meursault, premier cru, la pièce sous le bois. Donc, Meursault, premier cru, la pièce sous le bois. It's a very special place. This terroir is located near the hameau de Blagny. It's above Meursault and Puligny-Montrachet. It's between Meursault and Puligny-Montrachet, but above, high in the slope. And very close of wood, but very high in the slope.
That's what means the name, actually. The name of the...
Yes, la pièce sous bois.
La pièce sous bois means the parcel under the...
It means the parcel under the wood, la pièce sous bois. And the soil also is very characteristic for Chardonnay. It's a very chalky soil, limestone, chalky and salty soil. And the exposure is south exposure. 330 meters for the altitude, high on the slope. 4.20 acres for the surface area. Winemaking and aging, 100% in oak, in French oak barrels, Burgundy barrels, classic Burgundy barrels, with 30% of new oak barrels. We pick the grape on 12 of September. It's even it's high on the slope. It's south exposure. It means we had to be very careful for the right date to pick the grapes. The ripeness can be very, very fast. It's why we have, for example, Château de Saint-Aubin, le Clos du Château, we have picked on 18 or 19. For Meursault, la pièce sous le bois, we harvest on 12th of September. It was earlier. Very pure nose, with lemon and toasty notes. And also for me, a little flinty flavor. Beautiful sapidity in the mouth, saltiness, beautiful, well-balanced wine. Between fresh texture, sapidity, minerality, spicy flavors, and citrus, it keeps, it's very crisp, it's crispy, and we keep the wine very, very long time. Very, very, very long finish. This wine is not yet in bottle. It will be bottled in June this month. Beautiful texture, beautiful concentration, beautiful ripeness, beautiful acidity, big complexity.
You harvested relatively early compared to some of the other sites, despite...
I think it was the beginning of the harvest, 12.
And at this elevation, very high elevation, is it the exposure that...
Yes,
yeah,
it was south exposure. Look, very sunny place. And as the soil is very white with chalk, it gives the comment dit la chaleur, it gives heat. It's why we had to be very careful and very precise for the date of the harvest. Yes.
If we compare to Saint-Aubin, the village of Saint-Aubin is in the combe, is in between two slope, and so the vineyards see much less the sun during one day. The exposure to the sun is much less than the Meursault parcel.
Got it. Understood. Terrific. There was one question about Nadine, your favorite cooper. Who do you like to use for French oak? Who's your preferred barrel maker?
No prefer cooper.
All right, she's not revealing any secrets.
No prefer cooper. No one cooper. Never one.
The preference
cooper.
is to have several.
No. Several cooper.
The first rule, you have several.
Several coopers. Never one. Never.
That should be your number one rule.
No. We work with several coopers. It's very, very important because I explain why. It's French oak. It's come from forest, from center of France or east of France. We ask them the same thing, light, between middle to light toast, but each cooper has its own style, its own style. It's why, and we work only with one grape, Pinot Noir for the red and Chardonnay for the white. It's why it's very important not to put our wine in only one style of oak, and French oak. It's very important to work, to have more complexity and to not take risk to work with several coopers. Very, very important to do it.
It's like, maybe spicing your own meal. You would use several different spices in order to create something more complex rather than just use one spice.
It's like a great dish.
It's light, yes.
All right, that was my oversimplification.
That's how you cook?
I used multiple spices, not just one. Salt and pepper, very complex. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our last wine here.
The last white wine, it's Puligny Montrachet, First Cru La Garenne, Château de Saint-Aubin. La Garenne, le terroir, the lieu-dit La Garenne is located at the top of a slope of Puligny Montrachet, very, very high in the slope. Clay, the soil is clay and limestone, but for me more limestone, really more limestone. The vineyard is very old, 50 years old. 550 meters for the altitude, and the surface area is 0.73 acres. For the alcoholic fermentation and malolactic fermentation takes place in French oak barrels, Burgundy barrels, with 30% of new oak barrels. We picked the grape on 16th of September for this wine. And at this time, the wine is still in barrels on lees. We will rack it in few days for bottling at the beginning of July. Very complex wine, but also very Puligny flavors, styles. It's very elegant, crispy, refreshing acidity, very sharp, very sisal. It's very characteristic for Puligny Montrachet. You can see the difference between with these two wines. You have the good example of Meursault Premier Cru and Puligny Premier Cru. And the two terroirs are not very far. With these two wines, you understand very well the complexity of the Burgundy. The terroir, the two lieux-dits are not very far, and the two wines are very, very different. You have on the palate freshness, so it's very complex, very salty for me. Big saltiness, big sapidity, but the characteristic for me, it's very, very delicate, very fine, citrus, spicy flavors, and we keep also the wine, it's very long, very long, very long. We have the wine a very long time on the palate. For me, also for this wine, it's at this time, it's a baby wine. Big potential for this wine. After in bottle, big potential.
So there was a question out here, and we were talking about ripeness and heat, and we kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday, but the question was, with extra heat that we're seeing lately and what we're talking about here in 2019 specifically, does it make the wines less ageable? Is there the same potential because of the heat, or less potential with the perhaps higher ripeness?
Le potentiel de garde diminue avec la chaleur et le fait que ce soit plus mûr.
No, not for the Burgundy wine, because now with climate evolution in Burgundy, we have wine, we have grapes which are ripe, but ripe, it doesn't mean only sugar. Ripe, it means sugar, yes, but also tannins. The tannins for the red, the tannins are ripe. For the red and for the white, the flavors, the aromas are ripe. But we are lucky because we are in the center east of France. And the climate condition, if they are very, during the summer, the temperature can be high during the day, but we keep very fresh night. And during the night, the temperature are less, under 20 degrees Celsius. The night stay fresh. And we keep, with this temperature during the night, we can keep a very good level of natural tartaric acid, natural acidity. We have at the same time ripeness, but we keep acidity. And I think since we have this evolution for the climate in Burgundy, we produce more complex, more full body, more structure wine, both red and wine. And for me, these wines are more potential than before.
Yeah, so we're not talking about over-ripeness, we're talking about proper levels of ripeness and still maintaining plenty of acidity so long as our nights stay under 70 degrees Fahrenheit or so. There's still enough acidity to carry these wines for years and years. So we haven't hit over-ripeness in Burgundy yet, unlike maybe some other places that are starting to lose their balance. We were talking yesterday with Nadine, and she said when she started her career when she was 2 years old, 30 years ago, that maybe there was a problem with under-ripeness, or at least that was the side of ripeness that they felt they were on. And maybe now, with a little bit more heat and climate change, they're in more proper alignment with what the ripeness for these grape varieties should be. So we haven't hit over ripeness, and so long as there's enough natural acidity in the grapes, I think these wines have all the aging potential they did before.
And I have a little story, because when we look back in the books of Prosper Maufoux, and we were looking at the blending of the Burgundy wine at this time. It was in the 20s, in 1920s. They were adding wine from Northern Africa in the blending of with you had red from Algeria with Pomard, because the Burgundy, the Pinot Noir from Burgundy was not enough ripe.
Yeah, great example of maybe, hey, we're even for those palates, that's before Parker even, right?
That was before the AOC
yes, it was
constraint and now the rules we have in the book and in the French law, but
it was before 1935.
Yeah, now
I see it's 1935. 1935 was before.
Yeah, now you can't do that kind of stuff legally, and you don't have to anymore. We have good ripeness. Well, I think all the Pinots showed. I think all the wines showed really well today. You know, I'm always surprised that when I taste a wine so early in its development, when it shows like I could drink it, and I probably have a hard time holding on to it for 10 or 15 years. But I hope everybody enjoyed our time together. I want to thank Aurelien and Nadine for their time today. Thank you, guys. If there are any last minute questions, let's get them in before I finish our final words. But I'll be sending a follow-up email. If you haven't been getting emails from me, you can send me an email. I drop my email in the chat. We'll make all these materials available, including a video of this recording on our YouTube site. Come visit us at YouTube. There's a Google Drive address that I'll send out to you guys with all the background information. And of course, if you need any assistance with your local wholesaler or ordering or have any other follow-up questions, please feel free to contact us, and I'll make sure that everything gets funneled back to our friends in Burgundy. So any other questions? Let me take one quick look in the chat. Just some really thanks. Thanks for everybody. So again, thank you guys, and of course our friends in Burgundy.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Lee. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye everybody. Thanks for joining today.